Hi, and welcome to the first episode of In Conversation with Experts, where we speak to experts on practical implementation questions on Agile, DevOps, and product innovation. I'm your host, Anil Singh. I'm a certified Scrum trainer. I also have about 23 years of experience, half of which is spent on Wall Street and the other half in startups, focused really on delivering products. I also have a very strong technical background, and I consult organizations with DevOps and cloud adoption. Today's episode is focused on building products and the product owner role. And with me today, I have two experts, Arundhati Dutta and Valerio Zanini. I would like to invite them now to introduce themselves.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me here, Anil. Awesome to be here. I'm Arundhati. I am based out of San Francisco. I live between San Francisco and Bangalore, and I have 15 plus years of experience. And last 6 years were at my last startup, but that's actually my fourth startup. I have very diverse experiences. I've worked on Wall Street as a management consultant with Deloitte, New York. I have a background in clinical psychology, which I still use today to understand products deeper. And I am also co-organizer of the Women in Agile San Francisco chapter with Laura Powers and a lot of other wonderful people in the Agile community. And I am a licensed Scrum trainer. And I'm also an authorized instructor for the ICP ACC workshops. So I do product and Agile coaching and Scrum Master workshops. And I also am a product owner at my company, Harmonic Agile. So great to be here, and I'm looking forward to talking with both of you.
And my name is Valerio. I'm from Washington, D.C. I'm also a certified Scrum trainer, and I'm a certified product innovation trainer. I've been in the product space for about 20 years. I launched a couple of startups. I worked for some major corporations where I led digital product development, and now I am a consultant and trainer in this space.
Thank you both. Thank you both for joining today. I would love to dedicate this particular video for just focusing on product and product owner role. So we want to kind of talk about that. We have two experts here who would like to share their opinion. So the first question I have, Valerio, and a lot of my students ask this question, is if the PO and the Scrum Master are optional in the daily Scrum, when does the product owner review the work? Is it only in sprint review?
Yeah, the Scrum Guide is quite clear on this, that the daily Scrum is an opportunity for the development team to inspect the progress of the work towards the goal. So the product owner, like you said, product owner and Scrum Master is not needed at the daily Scrum. However, it's a good practice to have at least the product owner there. The reason is for visibility into what the team has been working on, and maybe they have some impediments that the product owner can help address. Now, besides the daily Scrum, how can the product owner interact with the team? I don't think they should wait for the sprint review. That's way too late, because at the point the work is done, the sprint is completed, something that is not done properly, too late to change. So they should really interact on a daily basis. Ideally, sitting side by side. I know that in this new world, we are changing things, so maybe we need to be side by side virtually. But the point is individuals and interactions over processes and tools. That's the Agile value that we foster, and we want to make sure that the product owner interacts with the team as often as possible.
And also just, adding to that, what you said is excellent, Valerio. Just kind of adding to that, the product owner needs to spend a lot of time with customers, but also the product owner is part of the team, right? So a lot of times people say, so I get asked questions. So I forgot to mention I'm a licensed Scrum trainer, so I do like product workshops and Scrum Master workshops. And a lot of times folks will ask me, should I let the product owner come to my retrospective? And I always like to say, well, the product owner is part of your team. It's not like saying, stay away, product owner, I don't want you here. So it's kind of like, think of the product owner as part of your team. And the product owner ideally should be spending 50% of their time with the team so that they can help clarify and, any kind of questions that have come up around the stories, etc. So, yeah.
Thank you both. Thank you so much. I think the next question I have, which is very interesting, is if you're working on a new product, what's the most important thing for us to focus on?
Well, I can get started with that. I get asked that question a lot, especially with young startups just starting to build a new product. And the first thing, I like to say is that start with the problems. Like, what are the problems you're trying to solve? Because if you start going into a solution, then that maybe nobody wants that solution. So think from the customer's point of view. Always try to be customer-centric and start to think of what are the pain points around this that you're trying to solve. And from there, you start to prioritize, okay, so if I'm solving for this customer and they have like the 26 pain points, how do we prioritize and then come to the top 3 pain points that we want to address? And from there, we start to think, okay, what could be the solution to this? So solutioning comes much later. Focusing on the problem and trying to solve the problem is the most important piece.
Thank you for that. So kind of related question, I get asked a lot of times, what is an MVP? And can you build more than one MVP?
I can go ahead on that. So yes, the MVP is, the concept of MVP is a minimum viable product. So it's the minimum set of functionality that you can build to get your product out in the hands of customers so that they can use it and then give you feedback. The goal here is feedback, is a learning opportunity, and basically to use the MVP to validate an hypothesis that you may have initially, that if the hypothesis is valid, then your product is viable. If the hypothesis is not valid, maybe you need to pivot and go back to the drawing board and figure out a different solution. So the earlier you do that and the less expensive you do that, the better.
So I guess sort of a follow-up question. So we kind of understood MVP. One thing that when we're working on a product is personas. So how much time should we spend on persona creation?
Sure, I can take that. So personas are really important because you're trying to understand your customer. So if you do not understand who your customer is, then you cannot build for them. So deeply understanding personas is very important. So ideally, I mean, we could do a full one-day workshop on personas because it's such an important topic in product. But ideally, you want them to be real people. You want to actually go and talk to people and have them be real people and then create personas from them. And then you want to spend enough time that you deeply understand who you're building for. But at the same time, remember this, your understanding of personas will change over time. So, as your product shifts and builds and you get to like next, version of the product, you might be catering to a slightly different persona. So this will evolve over time. It's a living document. It's not something you create and then you're done for the next 5 years. Not at all like that. So be mindful of that. So don't spend too much time, but also be cognizant of the fact that over time you're going to have to revise and review that persona and update it.
Yeah, it's interesting, Valerio. As we train the product owner class many times, we realize that besides just the 2-day class, we also offer consulting calls right after the class. And this is free for our students to take on. So one of the questions that came out in one of the consulting calls was, well, you did all of this storyboards, throwaway prototypes, and project roadmap or product roadmap. It was all using pen and paper. Was there a conscious reason for doing that in class that way? Why couldn't we use software?
Yeah, my besides personal preference, my answer to that question is this. There is nothing wrong in using digital tools to create prototypes. And especially now that we are remote and we need to collaborate remotely, that's certainly a good way to do that. The reason to use the prototypes happens at different stages in the product development process. And one reason is to validate early discovery. So why spend too much time or get into much detail with a digital tool that tends to be very detailed, when you just want to put an idea on paper maybe and just put it in front of somebody and ask for quick feedback. Is this what you're thinking about, or you're thinking about something different? So paper prototypes are a great way to get out of your head as quick as possible and get some early feedback. Digital prototypes are very useful when you need to refine details. For example, you need to refine some elements of the UI and you want to show exactly how the flow of things work and get feedback on that, for example. And so there are different stages you can use different prototypes. I'm personally biased towards paper because I just like it, the physicality of it and the speed of development makes it just my preference.
Very, very cool. Hey, so one popular question, this is more about the role. What is the difference between a product owner and a product manager?
I can take a pass at it, and then Valerio, you can certainly add your thoughts. I would say there is typically, if your company is following Scrum and pursuing the Scrum framework, you would have a product owner. And the product owner is really the CEO of the product, like taking full responsibility, is accountable for the decisions that they're taking. But since I live in San Francisco, I'm here in the Bay Area, I do see a lot of companies who are very agile. They're releasing daily, but they don't use any framework in particular. Like they don't have Scrum rules particularly, but they are doing demos every week or every 2 weeks. They're doing their retros, but they have product manager roles. Like they will call the person who's kind of taking on the role of the product as product manager. So I've really seen a variance in this term, and I'm sometimes surprised. I will go into companies and say, well, this is perfectly agile, but there is actually no Scrum Master role, there's no product owner role, it's product manager. So I think it varies quite a bit across different companies and industries.
Yeah, and to add on that, I think it's just a matter of name, but the actual job and the actual responsibilities are very, the same, right? It's the same type of job. The one thing I've been very mindful recently is that some frameworks put actually a difference in responsibilities between the product manager and the product owner. And while this is not certainly intentional from the framework itself, it has created the perception that the product manager has a more customer-centric responsibility, high-level responsibility, whereas the product owner is more focused on just execution and working with the development team. This, for example, represented in SAFe, and again, while it was not intentional, that's the way it is coming through. The reality is that if the product owner is just focusing on execution and is not connected to the customer, understanding the bigger picture and the overall prioritization of things, they cannot really be effective in their job. They cannot really create products that customers love. So for the product owner, they need to have the same level of visibility, same level of context as everybody else responsible for the product, and just share that visibility so they can all have the same context, same vision, same understanding of the needs, and then be able to work with the development team to build the right product.
That's great. So I guess one question that is very interesting, and it's seen different ways that teams do this, is how does a development team interact with the end users and customers?
Yeah, I think it's very interesting. I personally feel the more depth of understanding everybody on the team has of their customer, the better products they can build. I've known some startups where what is this? This is a very famous story, but I forget the name of the company, where every time there was a customer call, the phone was kept right in the middle of the development room, and it would go off really loudly, and one of the development team members had to pick it up and answer the customer call to figure out what the problem is, and then go fix it or automate the process so that they don't get similar calls again. And that phone was right there in the center. So that was a way of helping developers learn. And I think Zappos has this idea where when you join, the development team always has to rotate and be part of customer support. So they actually have to pick up calls and listen to customers. So I think different companies have done it in a different way where they want engineers, the people working on the product, to really understand the pain points from the customer's point of view. And the more you can do it, even better. I've seen startups where they will actually, they have transcripts, like recordings of the customer support calls, and they will review it together as a team with the development team. So just, many different ways to kind of have the development team be more aware of the customer's pain points. So yeah, I think trying to include that into your working process will help even development team members come up with great ideas. Like, hey, I heard this customer say this, so maybe we can build this to automate it so that they don't have this problem in the future. So, yeah.
One additional idea is, I think we said earlier that one of the responsibilities of this product manager, product owner, is to spend time with the customers. Why don't bring a few development team members with you when you go talk to your customers? So for example, don't bring the whole team, but on a rotational basis, you can take one team at a time and give them an opportunity to interact with the customer, get the context, ask questions, and kind of things, right? Over time, that builds tremendous context for everybody in the team. Another idea, I did that with some of the teams I worked with in the past, is organize a field trip. And you can do that like once a year, every couple of quarters, whatever. Field trip, go out with the whole team. We went to New York, for example. Why New York? Because in New York, there are a lot of flagship stores of different companies. Think about Apple, BMW, Citi, Bank of America, even Capital One, and so on. Samsung, many comes to mind, Time Warner. And these flagship stores always demonstrate, use the latest technologies, they pilot new interaction models with customers. So it's always a source of great ideas for inspiration. So we will spend a couple of days in New York just looking at this kind of different innovations and just think about how we could implement them. Another thing that I've seen is Nordstrom. I think this is a few years back, but the idea is still valid. Nordstrom, and actually there is a video on YouTube for that. Nordstrom did a one-week hackathon where they put the developing team in a Nordstrom store. They focused on a very specific problem, which was the sunglasses design, whatever, testing. And in 1 week, they interacted with customers and quickly built different versions of an application, of a tool, to test the sunglasses without even wearing them. And there was great exposure to the team as well, right? So all these are different ideas to give context to the team and let them connect with the customers.
Perfect, thank you. One last question, and that's really something that comes up all the time. Does the product owner have technical expertise?
So maybe I can start on this. I think great product owners are a balance between 3 dimensions, HB&T, human, business, and technology, because in the end, these are the 3 areas they need to work with. Now, do they need to have technical expertise? No. I've seen great product owners that had 0 technical expertise, and yet they build tremendous successful products. Having technical knowledge certainly helps in the relationship with the team, so you can talk APIs, you can talk AI, you can talk whatever, but you don't need to be able to be an expert to be able to do that. I think when you look at the 3 dimensions, human, business, and technology, everybody comes from a different background, and probably everybody is stronger in one area versus the other. You as a product owner, what you want to do maybe is recognize which area you are mostly focused on and which area maybe you're weaker in, and find opportunity to develop that area. So you can create a balance between these three dimensions.
Yeah, I think that you said it perfectly, Valerio. I agree. And I think, you know, the mindset of a good product owner is to always keep learning. So keep learning technology. It doesn't hurt. The more you understand, the better conversations you can have. And keep learning about business and about, you know, empathy, about how your customers are thinking. Try to put yourself in their shoes. So no, you don't need technical expertise. It certainly doesn't hurt, but you do want to have a balanced set of skills where you're able to also empathize with your customer, you understand business, and you're building what will add the maximum value. And you also are able to talk with your team around the technical concepts.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that I cannot thank you both enough for the opportunity, you know, spending the time and answering such amazing questions that we can all share with students. Thank you so much for that. In conclusion, I'd like to invite you. I know both of you do a lot in the community on your website. I know a lot of the answers you had actually had, like the HBT model. These things are documented on your website. You have events, you have classes. I'd love you both to share your website and to share some things that you have that our students can, you know, benefit from.
I'd like to invite you to visit sparkengine.com. This is a training program in product innovation that includes product management, product innovation, and design thinking. And again, it's sparkengine.co.
So just to confirm, it's .co, not .com.
Correct, yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Or just Google Spark Engine.
Well, I do a lot of product and Scrum Master or team coaching workshops, so you are welcome to check those out. Message me if you want the next workshop. A lot of them are private or sometimes they're public workshops as well. So you can visit harmonicagile.com. I'm the product owner there. And yeah, I look forward to seeing some of you watching this on one of the future workshops. All of us collaborate, so you might see me doing a workshop with Valerio or Anil. So.
Looking forward to it. So thank you again for your amazing answers, and hope to see you next time.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.